Commentator Hilaryr with us now. Okay, Senator, weigh in on that, and also this idea. We certainly heard Adam Schiff raising the question of impartiality on the part of congressional Republicans and also on the FBI. And he even pointed out that when it came down to what we'd seen Chairman Burr and Chairman Nunes do, which was talking to the media, he was saying, look, confirming or denying reports about this topic, whether there was Russian contact with Trump campaign officials, that he said that is revealing classified information.
Well, I don't think that's revealing classified information, but let me just make a couple of points. First off, I would disagree with Jim in this respect. What Representative Schiff did was not contradict Devin Nunes. That wasn't the opposite of what Devin said. What Devin said is there's no there there. That's true. He said there's nothing here. What Adam Schiff didn't say, there is a there there. That would be a contradiction. What he said was, we don't know. And by the way, we want to find out more, and we need more information. But he didn't say that there is any evidence. In fact, he was pretty clear in stating that so far we don't have any evidence. But we need more. So that's not a contradiction.
If Nunes was saying we cannot conclude that there is something, if he was saying we haven't been able to conclude that there's something there, in a way, I guess you could argue they were saying the same thing, that this was sort of a process situation, because you had Nunes saying, there's nothing.
We have no evidence today.
There's no evidence today, and you have Schiff saying that doesn't mean anything because we haven't actually done anything.
My whole point is they're not contradicting each other. It's sort of this. They're saying the same things. They're just putting different spins on it. One saying, "Well, yeah, we haven't found anything yet, but we need to find out more because we believe there is something out there."
I don't think he said yet. Go ahead, Jim Sciutto, weigh in. Jim Sciutto, weigh in.
Listen. I take the senator's point, and he's a fair arbiter here. The senator's point being that neither side has reached a conclusion. That's true, but the message from Nunes, and I pressed him a number of times, as did my colleague Manu Raju and others, on this point, was he gave a clear indication that based on his conversations with members of the intelligence community, that he was assured that there was no there as far as these communications are concerned, really almost answering a question on one of the key subjects of this investigation before that investigation has been completed. That's Adam Schiff's point. Adam Schiff certainly doesn't say, I've been given any indication that there's no there. In fact, he makes the opposite point, saying we haven't seen the evidence or heard the testimony to make any such conclusion. Listen, you could have a bigger contradiction. You could have a bigger contradiction, conceivably, but on that issue of whether it's an open question or a closed question, the Republican chairman virtually closed the question. The Democratic ranking member said we got a long way to go, not just on communications, but on establishing whether there's collusion. And that's not just spin, in my view. It's a pretty remarkably different view of where the investigation stands before it gets underway.
I would agree. View of their responsibility. I mean, that's really the key issue.
I would agree that there is a difference as to whether one believes it's an open decision or not, and there is a contradiction there. But my point was that Adam Schiff, who has seen evidence, let's be honest, I mean, he hasn't not reviewed a lot of evidence and been given a lot of counsel already by the intelligence community, but he did not say anything contradicting that, in fact, any evidence has been found. In fact, all he said is, we don't know yet, and we haven't heard anything as of yet. And that to me, is very significant.
All right, Hilaryr, weigh in on that.
Okay, first of all, Congressman Schiff said that he hasn't seen the full report and he hasn't seen all the evidence. And so
he said he doesn't have documents, there haven't been witnesses,
that's right,
and there hasn't been FBI testimony.
Which is right. They've had a few conversations. Now, here's the big issue, which is the people who are politically aligned with the White House are trying to encourage people to move along. And we haven't heard from Jim Comey, the head of the FBI, which is, I think, one of the most surprising things. His name hasn't come up all day today. We have seen Jim Comey in the past when people have tried to short-circuit investigations, when people have tried to speak for the intelligence community, for conclusions around investigations, jump out there and say, no, let me give you the full panoply of our evaluation and our conclusion. Until Jim Comey does that here and does that forthright with the American people, we're probably not going to get a conclusion. The second thing is Democrats are simply saying to the Republicans on the Hill, do not be the White House's mouthpiece. You are elected separately to evaluate separately and get all of the facts here and provide oversight. And until they do that, Rick, I don't think that anyone could argue they're doing their job.
Well, let me ask you this, Hillary, because one of the criticisms of Jim Comey from Democrats has been that he has weighed in on things. And then we heard Adam Schiff there. I mean, he was really questioning the independence, the impartiality of the FBI. One of the big criticisms Democrats have of President Trump is they feel like he has raised questions about whether you can believe in institutions. And you have Adam Schiff raising a question about whether you can believe the FBI, even though the feedback from the FBI to the White House was actually, you know what, we can't say anything about that. That's not what we're supposed to do under the guidelines. I mean, what do you say to that, considering the FBI demurred?
Look, I think we have a twofold problem as Democrats, right? One is we don't want to be seen as constantly relitigating the election. So, but we have seen, Jim Comey get very political. He did it with, Hillary Clinton's issues twice, not just once. What we have seen, though, is, this problem where the Trump White House is trying to push people to move along, but to what? We're about to have a budget that might decimate the EPA and, regulation of our clean air and clean water, double defense spending and take away, health care for people. It's like, how many fronts can we be fighting here? So I think what we're trying to do is to say, let the Intelligence Committee do its work, give them the documents, give them the witnesses. We can stop talking about this and stop proclaiming innocence or guilt until they finish that work. We have a lot of other things to get started on here.
All right, I want to bring in Gloria Borger to talk about us over this showdown over Obamacare. So, Gloria, you heard, because it's sounding like congressional Republicans not necessarily on the same page with the White House exactly on this. No. We also heard during the budget today, to combine a couple of things here, but I think it's important, that Donald Trump is not going to touch entitlements, which is something that House Speaker Paul Ryan, I mean, that's his dream, right, is to get the pocketbook in order, and that, in his belief, means you have to tackle entitlements, which are responsible for so much of government spending. But then you heard Sean Spicer saying the president stands by his promise not to touch that. Then House Speaker Paul Ryan says, well, look, repealing and replacing Obamacare is entitlement reform.
Well, there you have it. Right. So now we're doing entitlement reform, but not really. I think Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell, neither one of whom were close to President Trump during the campaign, who particularly liked President Trump during the campaign, who stayed away from him during the campaign, are now embracing him with open arms because they believe that they can start getting their agendas passed with control of the House and the Senate and the presidency, and that Donald Trump is their vehicle to do that. And so you saw Mitch McConnell come out today saying, our agenda is the same as the president's agenda. And then you saw, as you point out, Paul Ryan say, well, repealing Obamacare is entitlement reform. And I think they're going to have problems. I know they're having it on the House side, for example, with some of their conservatives who are already saying, Brianna, look, I'm not going to vote for the plan that is circulating now because these refundable tax credits are, in fact, the beginning of a new, a new entitlement. So we're not going to do that.
Explain that, just so that we're very clear on it. The refundable tax credit, meaning this is basically a voucher, right, from the government if you qualify to help you purchase health insurance to offset the cost if you are someone who is more in need. The point that we're hearing from the House Freedom Caucus is, okay, that is an entitlement program. Now that is the crux of Obamacare, really, that voucher in a way. So how do you even, without a complete overhaul of Obamacare that would gut it and actually upset a lot of people who do like the plan, I mean, what would Congress be able to do?
Well, it's very, as the president himself said today, this is very complicated. And so what you've got are conservatives saying, you know, wait a minute, and maybe Ricksantorum can talk about this a little bit, because not only would you get these refundable tax credits, it would be dependent on your age and not on your income, for example.
Well,
so that's a problem.
Here's the issue, which is that essentially, if you repeal Obamacare, you essentially put a huge amount of money, billions of dollars, back into the federal treasury, because the subsidies for purchasing health care would no longer be available. But at the same time, you would be taking health care away from millions of people. And so what the conservatives have wanted to do is take away health care from millions of people, get that money back into the Treasury, and indeed, some are even saying that can help pay for their tax cuts that they are looking to do later on, which is one of the reasons they want to do health care before tax reform.
But I would like to, Ricksantorum.
I want to hear what the senator has to say, because obviously that, I mean, you know, and Republicans, most of them are very aware that is not going to fly. It's why you hear the president talking a lot about we're going to make this even better.
Yeah, it's why this has gotten stuck.
Republicans aren't interested in taking health care away from people and providing tax cuts. What Republicans are trying to do, and conservatives are trying to do, is put together a plan to fix a death spiral to Obamacare, a plan that is really in its last stages, and if you know, there's many
wait, you're saying it's dying. That's what
it is absolutely done. I mean, rates are increasing,
Paul Ryan
insurers
said,
are pulling out
under its own weight.
It is collapsing under its. There's no question it's collapsing under its own weight. So we are in a position of having to save this plan that is basically collapsing at this moment. How do we do this? One of the big concerns, and Gloria mentioned this, is not the refundable part of the tax credit. They are concerned about this idea of putting money out there in advance. So advance refunding. There is huge fraud in programs that do advance refunding, upwards of a quarter to 30% fraud historically. So that's a huge red flag to Republicans.
There's no evidence that there's fraud here. Come on.
Oh, sure
Come on, Rick, you know better.
Can I do I want a final word from Gloria Borger, because this is the new narrative that we're hearing.
Let me just finish what Republicans are saying. Okay, that's number one. They are concerned about high-income people. Gloria mentioned based on age, not based on income. They don't want to give subsidies to wealthy people for their health insurance. I think the answer to this, and this is I'm pushing this, is we shouldn't try to fix Obamacare, and that's what Ryan's plan, I think, essentially does. I think ultimately what Republicans should be for is doing what we did in the 1996 welfare bill, which is let's give this problem to the states, give them more money, not less money, more money. We did this in '96, put a cap on it, and let them innovate to be able to deal with the problems in their own state. That, to me, is a much simpler way of going about this problem.
Gloria Borger, quick fact check before we go to break here. That narrative that we're hearing, that Obamacare is basically, you know, it's in a death spiral. I mean, just fact check that for us.
Well, look, I think that you've seen people see their premiums go up, and they were upset about the premiums going up. And what the Democrats have said, and maybe now the Republicans are thinking about it, is, look, you have to fix this because you've had insurance companies back out. I mean, the Obamacare isn't working as it was envisioned, right? The question is, do you need to throw it out, or can you just fix it without people losing the benefits that they want and that they already have? And this is the problem Republicans are having at their town halls, because, of course, if they had a plan, it would have been a little easier for them last week as they face constituents. But the bigger picture here, Bree, the bigger picture is you have a president who wants to spend at least $54 billion in fiscal year 2018 on defense. He wants to build a wall for $23 billion. And people are asking the question, conservatives among them, Ricksantorum, where are we going to get the money?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Gloria Borger, Hilaryr Rosen, Ricksantorum, thank you all. And next, we're going to talk about the father of a Navy SEAL killed during a terror raid in Yemen. He's speaking out, demanding answers, telling President Trump, quote,